And 8:30 now, joining me here at WOTD is Hutch from the. Oops, I got music on it. Just turn that off. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that, Hutch. There we go. Now we got you without music, unless you got some music to play for us.
I do not. I was panicking that I was like that something changed on my computer. It's been a week break, so I was worried that my what did I do? And I am not
Uh,
the tech savvy one to
yeah.
figure that out on the fly.
Oh dear. Sorry about that. Well,
No
what's
worries.
happening with LCO schools? You're back from Thanksgiving break, and the routine was kind of interrupted a little bit, and now we got to get
Yeah.
back into routine before winter break.
Yep, getting back into the flow. We had a much anticipated and probably needed Thanksgiving break last week, off for the week for Thanksgiving. Prior to that, we had a short week due to the Veterans Powwow that was here the weekend prior.
Hmm.
And the week before Thanksgiving, we had a kind of a busy week too. We had an on-site BIE ISEP review that took place for 3 days. That involved a lot of meetings and planning and boring stuff, but also a lot of classroom visits. Our BIE Education Resource Center out of Minneapolis and Albuquerque were able to visit a lot of classrooms and talk to a lot of students and kind of observe not a full week, but a good chunk of time here at school. And so that was a busy build up to the Thanksgiving break. So
Mm,
it was a week that we were all looking forward to. But yeah, now we're back. Back in session yesterday morning. We started with our school-wide assembly like we do every Monday morning, and talked about the 3.5 week push to
right.
Christmas break, and we've got a good chunk of time to get a lot of good work done during that time. And we do have some things coming up. We have next week, next Wednesday, we have second quarter parent teacher conferences. So there's an early release for students, and then parent teacher
Okay.
conferences from 2 o'clock to 5:30. There's also a powwow that morning. Our December powwow will happen next Wednesday morning from 9:30 to 11, and that's parents and families are welcome to attend that with their child. Our Christmas program is on the 15th of December, and this is actually a change from our school calendar. When our school calendar was published, it was originally set for the 21st, and it's been moved up to the Friday before that. So that is a change. We're going to try to get that out on social media and make sure that parents and families know about that, because that's usually a very well attended event. That's for our elementary
Yep.
students.
Yep.
That's going to be in the afternoon. Typically, it's in the morning. So on the 15th, it will be in the afternoon. It starts at 2:15 on Friday afternoon, and then the following Thursday, I believe it's the 21st. We have an early release for our Christmas break, and then we're off for about a
Okay.
week and a half, 2 weeks, almost
Yeah.
2 weeks. Yeah.
And then when you come back, we've already flipped into 2024. It's going to be interesting to start thinking about 20. I was just talking about the round dance scheduled in March
Yeah.
for 2024, and it's like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
lots of
It happens.
activities still happening.
Rolls pretty quick. The older you get, the faster it goes. That's what I have figured out.
Oh yeah. Speaking of being older, now I'm not going to ask you your age, but I want to ask you about your personal journey to becoming, ending up
Oh.
here at LCO as the superintendent. Where are you from normally? I think a lot of listeners outside of LCO would like to know who this Hutch person is at LCO.
Well, thank you for asking that. Well, my journey to LCO started a long time ago. I've been at Le Coudray since I'm 44, almost 45, and this was my first teaching gig when I was 22, right out of the gate. I grew
Oh,
up
okay.
actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been here for a while. I was born in Hayward. My parents separated. I moved to Bayfield, and grew up. Went to school in Bayfield. And graduated from Bayfield, went to college in the Twin Cities area, but had family in the Hayward area. So when I graduated, I moved back to Hayward, and you know looked for jobs and was not qualified. Then the teaching profession was, I think it was a lot different than it is now. I've said this a few times, that if my 22-year-old self walked in the door right now, even with an out-of-state teaching license, which is what I had,
Yeah.
and I was a athlete in school, so I was interested in coaching sports and as a young teacher, I would be thrilled to have a 22-year-old like eager to, teach whatever subject, and just I would be excited. But at the time, the field was a little bit different for teaching jobs. There was lots and lots. It was flooded with applicants. So,
Yeah.
so it was a little tough to get my foot in the door. But I did get hired as a long-term sub at LCO. I taught second grade for the 21. God, it wasn't 21. It was 2001. The 2002 school year. I taught second grade as a long-term sub, and I was not good at it. Which I say all the time. Tina LaCappa, who is now a reading interventionist in the first grade, she was our teacher aide, and she helped me survive that school year and really just showed me the ropes, because she was the expert and I was the rookie that was way in over my head.
Yeah.
And then my background was in social studies. That's what my major was, secondary social studies. So the following year, a job opened up to teach high school social studies, which was my passion and excitement, and
Mm.
started doing that and coaching basketball and some other things a little bit. And then just kind of gradually started taking classes, pursued my master's degree in administration. I never ever planned to be an administrator. It was kind of like, I really should do this. The tribe and the school has always offered, which is a great fringe benefit. We offer 6 credits of continuing education a year. So you can take like a class a semester, and the school will pay for it, which, as a young, not very financially solid teacher, it was like,
Right.
well, this is a benefit I'm leaving on the table, and that just doesn't make sense to me. And so I started taking classes towards my administrative degree. It took me 7 years to finish my master's degree. I had a couple kids in the interim, and finished that, and then started working on a principal license and superintendent license. And there was some turnover in our administration at the time, and then was asked if I could do it, and I said, no, I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not ready to do any of that. And came to the conclusion that if it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be me working for somebody else. And at the time, I have to say that I had been invested for quite a while in the school and the outcomes, and I felt I was worried that somebody was going to come in and do things, not in a way that was respective of LCO and of the kids and the staff and the community, and was very worried about that. So that's kind of where I said, I'll do the best I can, and until you find
Yeah.
somebody else, and that somebody else never
Never showed up.
transpired. So yeah. So finally, I got to the point where I felt like I was capable and had learned enough, or to be able to keep learning. I recognized that I didn't know enough, but I was in a position to be able to keep learning. And I'll tell you, the reality is there's so many people here that have been here longer than me, and that know far more than me about the school and the community and the processes that I rely on every single day. From like Jim Kingfisher, our transportation director, he's been here doing his thing longer than me, and I'm not doing it if he leaves. And there's about 10 people that I feel the same way about, because they just provide so much
Right.
strength and stability to the school that it's not a one-person job. It really, really isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I was
that's
always
me.
told by famous Dave Anderson, who's a friend of mine. He says, always surround yourself with people who are better than you and can do the job better, because that's what's going to make you successful and the organization successful, is to have those people around you.
That is the best advice. I absolutely agree, and I'm glad you said that, because last week when we have this BIE site visit, and we have to send reporting and all kinds of things all the time, all through the year, and so they kind of get an idea of what we do here, but they don't see it firsthand. They don't get to see the people and the kids and the programs.
Right.
And last week, that week that they were here, they really got to, and they said that, it's great to be able to put a picture to the story that, they see. And my biggest excitement in that whole process was they were able to see, they were able to meet Laura, who was our, front desk mastermind. They were able to meet, our accounting staff. They were able to, have some fry dogs from the kitchen. They were able to get a really good picture of what we do, and how we do it here, instead of just, through documents that I have to send for accounting and reporting
Sure.
and, checking the box. They were actually able to meet the people and the kids of Le Coudray, which
Yeah.
there's way more value to that, I think.
So this visit from the BIA, explain that a little more. Is this
Yeah.
kind of like a grading system for the school?
Well, so it's pretty complicated, but it's all, it's so our funding source, or I guess our funding formula, is it's called the Indian Student Equalization Program, and it is a federal funding formula for tribal schools, whether they're tribally controlled like us, that we're tribally controlled with our local school board, or they're bureau operated, which is operated by the Bureau
Yeah.
of Indian Education. There is a funding formula for how to provide support to schools, and it's based on student enrollment criteria. So our students, in order to get funding from the federal government, they need to be federally enrolled or tribally enrolled. So they have to be tribally enrolled at a federally recognized band, and that does not include, obviously,
Right.
Canada. They have to be at U.S. Membership. They have to have a birth certificate on file. They have to have a home language survey on file, and they have to have immunization records up to date. And we have to have all of those things on file in our system in order to receive funding for each
Sure.
student. Yep, and there's a couple other funding. It's all federal funding, but there's a couple other pots of money, I guess. Gifted and talented students, students that are receiving special education services. There's a tiny bit of money for native language support, and so this visit from the BIE took place in person. It was an on-site visit. The BIE is supposed to do on-site visits to verify the accuracy of these records every 3 years on site. They verified every year
Wow.
remotely. So last year we had the same kind of review. It just took place virtually, and this year it was on site. It'll happen again on site in 3 years. But we haven't had an on site visit from the BIE in at least a decade, and that's due to a
Oh,
whole number of reasons, mostly on their end. But the BIE has recently, and kind of it's been a prolonged review by the Government Accountability Office. They have been, I don't know the nice way to say it, but they've been reprimanded, I would say, for needing to do a better job of providing technical support and outreach to their schools. So
yeah.
so we really looked at this visit as, an opportunity to demonstrate and to showcase what we do. But there wasn't the sense of like fear and dread that I think there used to be when the BIE would come to visit, because the reality is they needed to come visit us as much as we needed to have them visit.
Yeah.
They were doing this as a need to, to provide outreach and technical support, which they did. It was a very the dynamic of the visit was a lot different than previous a decade ago. It was not the finger waving, you need to do this better, that I remember as
Right.
a teacher when the BIE would come. It was always stressful. It was always like, ooh, but it really wasn't. Yeah, it really
Right.
wasn't. I think that's due to a couple factors. And they had mentioned to us multiple times, the visitors that were here, that we're really in good shape. She said there's two schools that I don't worry about in terms of making sure that we're doing, we're checking all the boxes and jump through the hoops, and it's us
Right.
and
No.
Hannahville in Michigan. So that was reassuring. When they look through our records or they visit our students and ask questions, there was really that sense of we're in a good spot. We're one of the very few BIE schools that had an increase in enrollment coming through COVID, and not a drastic decrease too.
Yeah.
So, and we also use the
Hmm.
visit.
That's
I
interesting
have
to hear the details of what happens behind the scenes. that parents may not be aware about, or the community for sure
Right,
isn't aware
definitely.
about, of some of these things that you have to go through, like you said,
Yeah,
on an annual basis for records. That's a lot of work.
it's all the not fun stuff. But we did use the visit as another opportunity to advocate for space. This fall, am in the process. I submitted it, but it's
Okay.
been reviewed and revised and sent back. A request for space expansion. As everybody in the community does know, we're strapped for space, and we have been for some time. And this was a chance for people from the
Yeah.
BIE, though they're not the ones that are making the ultimate decisions, to come and to visit and to see what it looks like to have 400 kids in a cafeteria in the course of an hour. Getting all those kids through lunch, getting all those kids gym time, getting all
Sure.
those kids in and on and off the buses. So they were able to see what that looks like in real terms. And so when that expansion request
Yeah.
comes across their desks, hopefully soon, they can attest to, yep, they really do have modular classroom buildings,
Hmm.
and they really do try and take advantage of all the space that they have. So that was the other piece of it,
Yeah.
was, yeah, come check us out, come see how congested the bathrooms are, where we need more space. And that was an opportunity to demonstrate that in a different platform.
Yeah. And which direction are you looking at expanding if you do get the funding for expansion? What does that look like, and how far down the road could that be happening?
Well, those are great questions, and I can only speculate because
Right. Yeah,
every
it is just
every
speculation.
indication I have been given is it's a long process, which
Yeah.
is, I'm sure, true. I've kind of come to the conclusion, though, that if you never start, then it's never going to happen. So no matter how long it is,
Right.
we got to start. What I requested was a multitude of things. And it has to be. It can't just be based on here's what we want. It has to be based
Right.
on the BIE school expansion guidelines, which are pretty narrow in their focus and flexibility. What was requested was a mini gym, not a full size like we have, but a mini gym that we would be able to have regulation basketball games, but it wouldn't have the huge bleacher space. Probably similar to what the Boys and Girls Club has. That was part of the request. We requested 6 additional multi-purpose classroom spaces, which would, in theory, house our related arts classes, our art, our music, cultural arts, traditional arts, which right now all of those classrooms are in our high school wing, which means that elementary students that take those classes are back and forth to the high
Sure.
school,
Yeah.
which adds time, adds distance. It means that
Hmm.
there's, lots of elementary kids in the high school, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But anyway, so we requested multiple classrooms. We requested career and technical education classrooms, which would be similar to like a vocational, like a shop. 2 classrooms, larger classrooms for VOTEC classes, because right now our woodworking class is in our fire hall, which is not
Right.
approved BIE educational space. We requested some special education space for our high school, an expansion of that, a conference room, restroom. We requested an expansion of our library. Our high school library, which is shared with our middle school and high school, is very undersized. It's very small, and actually now
Mm.
has a classroom in it, just because we've tried to maximize our
Oh,
space.
wow.
So those are we also requested some gender neutral bathrooms, because as the world shifts, to having different needs for students, we are trying to make that shift too. So that's the space that we requested. Where it would go, if I were to choose, I would say we would expand out the back of our building, like where our
Right.
cafeteria, kind of towards the Boys and Girls Club. I think that makes the most sense. Safety wise, trying to piece a campus together rather than have outbuilding, kind of, which is what the case is
Yeah.
right now. But of course, I'm not an engineer, and I don't know if that makes the most sense in terms of water lines and Wi-Fi
Sure.
and all the other needs. But that would be the ideal, is to just expand backwards. What we really need, in my assessment, is a high school. Our high school is the most aging part of our building. Our administrative wing that we're in right now is, I believe, was originally built in 1976 or 77, which makes it about 50 years old. Will be 50 years old soon, and it's
Well,
definitely the most aging part of the building. So if we could either expand on our high school, or replace our high school at some point in time, that would be the ideal. But again, it all is congressional appropriations and
yep.
approvals, and I'm sure it'll get hacked and chopped and melded into something
Right.
different from what it
Yeah.
is now by the time it's done. But I will say that is my long-term goal in this position, is to be able to see an expansion, of the school, a significant expansion of the school that is not, that is BIE funded. The tribe has been very generous in
Right.
helping us fund, modifications, our weight room, our gym updates, which has made a huge difference into the services that we can offer kids. But I really would like to see the BIE step up and provide the facilities that they are required to do, that they are obligated to.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Lots of things to consider,
that's a
especially
lot.
since the district will probably continue to grow as you're waiting for the gears of this to move along, and it's just now you have to actually predict what things might look like in 5 years and
Right.
things to be approved, and you're a much
Yep.
bigger population than you originally started with. So,
Well,
wow,
absolutely, and we're benefiting from the progress of the tribe. There's apartment buildings, there's housing developments happening, there's a beautiful new health center, and I can only imagine that as that progress continues, and as the tribe invests in the community, in the infrastructure in the community, I do hope that our enrollment
well,
grows. But I actually, the one of the ladies from the BIE asked me if we were going to cap enrollment. She said, "Are you ever going to, have you thought about capping enrollment, and will you ever have to do that, and have you considered that?" And I almost,
oh,
I feel like there is no reality where Indian education should have to be capped. That shouldn't be a consideration. There should be, that
yeah,
we should never have to say we can't take any more kids. The BIE needs to respond and support the expansion of Indian education, not the retraction of it. That
right,
giving more kids access to this platform should be the goal of the BIE. There never will we say we can't or we won't take any more kids. I feel like it should be, how can we expand and how can we grow to be able to provide more services to more students. That's just
right,
it's a
yeah.
not the way of thinking that we're going to have or accept, I guess.
Well, especially when you have a lot of community members, either native or non-native, rethinking public education, and nothing against the
No,
Hayward Community School District, but public education at large, they're looking at smaller schools and more specific educational opportunities, and to have those native themed classes available. It's just great for the culture. It's great for the community. It's great for understanding about the native culture, because I know you have non-native students there that are benefiting from this education. So that's a great thing.
right, and the other exciting part of it is, the LCO University recently received a grant, and I don't have a ton of information on it, but it is designed to support, the continuance of Native educators and being able to get fully licensed, Native educators not just in tribal schools but in all schools. And as like I said, as the tribe invests in the infrastructure, as educational outlets pursue more training and more growing their own, I see that the school is just one piece of the community that's going to thrive in that environment. So we want to make sure that
Yeah,
we're in the best position to be able to do that.
yeah. One quick question before we end. We got about 5 minutes, maybe 4.5. Um, how is the I don't know how to call it, but you've had some vaping issues, you've had some gang issues. How is the process going for you to address that in the community, and are students responding to how you're addressing this?
Well, I first have to start with the school board. We though we don't necessarily have a lot of formal meetings with the board. I'm in pretty continuous communication with the board, and so are our staff when we have issues with vaping or with gang related behavior or any of those other issues. So communicating with the board, making sure that they are not just aware of what we're dealing with, but kind of have an understanding, because they're hearing from the PD, they're hearing from mental health, they're hearing from you know a lot of other
Sure.
departments aside from the school. So we're trying to help give them that piece that represents the school. And so starting with the school board and making sure that they have information from the school and they're informed. They have been extremely supportive in making sure that the information that we're putting out, that we communicate with parents as to what the expectation is, what the resources are available. If it comes to vaping, for example, trying to make sure that if kids or families, parents, are struggling with that addiction and want to quit, what are the resources available? What
Right.
is all the information available? So I guess our tactic or our strategy is to provide as much information to the community and to students and to parents as we can, and then also to be very
Hmm.
clear as far as what the expectations and what things are moving forward, what we will try to implement, and
Yeah.
nothing is perfect or seamless, but I think trying to be proactive and you know educating kids on what are the pitfalls, what are the barriers, what are the hazards to whether you're talking about gang affiliation or vaping or you know we have some students right now that are struggling with eating disorders and are dropping
Mm.
weight, and we're trying to get a handle
Yeah.
on that. So whatever the non and nothing none of it falls within the scope of reading, math, science, and
Right. Yeah.
language. All of those things are outside the scope of what's the best way to provide education, but they're realities that as a school that we deal with. So just trying to make sure that that line of communication is open, and that we are clear and consistent with what our expectations are here at school for students. I think that's the biggest part of it, and understanding that we have factors every day that are impacting our kids when they come to school. Last night we just were informed of another loss in the community of one of our
Yeah.
recent
Yeah.
graduates. And everybody's taking it hard today. I will tell you, even coming on the radio this morning, I was like, okay, what are we gotta find something fun to talk about. So
Yeah.
that's a reality that our students and that our staff bring every day, and we have to be aware of that and conscious of that, and make sure that we're responding in a way that is trauma informed and that is culturally relevant, but that it is also in the best opportunity to make sure that students and staff are safe and supported.
Yeah.
So it's a balancing
Yeah.
act. It really is. It really is.
Hmm. Yeah. It's a tough job, and like you said, it has a lot of things don't have anything to do with what your primary purpose is for education. You're just dealing with life, and life that these students are trying to get through, and you're there on a regular daily basis for them. You give them that opportunity for some stability and structure in their life, and that's very, very helpful. Jess, we thank you for your time, and hope your rest of your week goes well, and look forward to next year.
Yeah, definitely. 2024.
All right, take care, Jessica. Thank you.
Yep. Have a great day. Thanks, Mark.